Hello, y'all. Welcome back to Bamm Raw TV. I want y'all to go get y'all some of this BXBZ gear. Go to bxbz.org, the website, and get some of the gear. I use some of the funds for this gear to do some of the things I try to do in the community. And some are coming, and I'm looking forward to trying to do things all around the city. So I love you. Check this out. Now, on this episode, it's going to be the pre-trial detention episode. And when we got arrested for the feds going on, I can honestly say this was the end of my short, infamous reign and the beginning of 27 years of confinement, loss, and pain. That's exact. I mean, that get it down to the point. All right. And in this situation here, when the Fed locked us up, they had 48 people where they locked up at times, some of them on minor charges. Okay. When they locked us up, they end up taking us to the old city jail. Some of y'all know it, and some of y'all don't. So the ones who know about it, just hold with me. But for the ones who do not know how it's structured, bear with me. Okay. Now the city jail is set up where it's two pods. Each pod has two sides to it. They got a living quarters in the back with 13 cells in the back, and then they got a part in the front in which you can cross over. When you cross over, which means just walk from the front to the back. When you come over to the front, you got a living area, a recreation area in which you can walk around. A shower is there also, a big old long dining table in which where you all sit there and eat. You have that on both sides, and then you have the same thing in the other part. Now, unfortunately, because of the reputation that I had and the way that they had labeled me in the conspiracy, in the bottom bar conspiracy, I was labeled as the enforcer. So by me being labeled as the enforcer, and they claimed that because I had a history of being disruptive and inciting riots, I was not put up front in the pods with my co-defendants. My co-defendant was put up in the pod. Instead, they took me in the back, and it's a back area. Now this back area consists of about 6 cells, and in 6 cells is 2-man cells, a lower bunk and a top bunk. The cells are probably 6, I'll say 8 by 6, and you got a shower, a toilet, 2 bunks, and a phone on the wall. That's it. You got very little area to move around. The whole time I was there, I never got a chance to get any recreation other than getting out of my bed, doing a couple of push-ups, get up, going to the shower, to and fro. But I did not have the opportunity to get up and move around like my co-defendants did at the front. So now, understanding that our pre-trial went on, our trial actually, it was 6 months before we actually went to trial from the time they arrested us. Then it was another 6 months before we were actually sentenced. So in that time, I ended up doing a year back there in that box with no rec other than walking out to go to court or walking out to go see my lawyer. And because it's such a long time, so many things happen that I'm just gonna pick out a few of them to tell y'all about, because as we gonna step this venue up, we finna start putting some visual with it. We finna move into another location. We finna start putting some visuals in it. So stick with me. Now as we go, I'm stuck back here in this cell for 6 months prior to our trial. During my time back here, I'm using the phone in the cell, and I'm calling out, trying to find out what's going on, what we charged with, what the feds got us, and what's going on. Do anybody know any information that they could put us down with? So therefore, I want to get to see my co-defendant when either we was being transported to trial or when I was going up to visit on Sundays. So on Sundays, I got 1 hour of visitation, and they will put me actually in the middle of the two of the pods where I could walk, and my co-defendants then would be locked up in their sleeping area, and I would be allowed to walk in between the hallway, and they had a window up at that door of the hallway, and I could speak to my wives at the window. And so therefore, I would spend 40 minutes talking to them, and then I would go back and spend 20 minutes talking to my co-defendants, and we would try to figure out what was going on, things that were being said about us, and try to find some people who could disprove some of the lies that had been brought up against us and everything. So it was very important that I got that time with them, occasionally. And so I go back, after then I go back to the cell. When I go back to the cell, I could, on the other time that we had any type of transaction was when we was going to court, and I'll tell you how that process went. But as it goes, during my time there, back in that cell, I had it's quite a few things happen. But like I said, I'll get to the things that I feel will may be of interest and everything. And first is the whole process. Me and my lawyer was already having some contentions because my lawyer was telling me things and he was not actually showing me them in writing. And I would demand to see them in writing because my lawyer worked for me. Whether given to me or paid for by the government or not, he worked for me. So I would ask that, hey, let me see this, go get me the paperwork to show that they validate. One thing in particular was the fact that they were saying that they had a warrant out for our body. And I didn't understand that. That was unfamiliar to me. I had been in and out the state, but that was unfamiliar to me. And they said got a warrant for our body and said they were going to come in there and take pictures of our body and everything. And I mean, until I seen some paperwork, I said, that's not going to happen. And so they was telling me that, hey, they're going to come in. They're going to come in with the goon squad. They coming in deep. They're going to take it back, grab you, and they're going to lay down by force or whatever they have to do because the judge has gave them a court order to be able to do this. It's a warrant to search in this law. So I told them, give me the paperwork and let me see it. And that's exactly what they're going to have to do because I'm not going to deliberately give up my rights so I won't be able to appeal that later on. So if y'all going to do something, I'm going to make y'all do it in a violating term so I have a chance to get back on it. I'm not just going to agree to it and give up my rights. He got the paperwork, and the judge he had a warrant for it. It seems that they had a warrant out for our bodies because they were saying that everybody in the bottom boys had to have a bottom boy tattoo. Now this didn't work out because at that time I was afraid of needles. So after they finally get the chance to take the pictures of me with no clothes on, they end up finding out that I don't have a tattoo. And the police make the little snide, when he was doing it, he make the little snide remark because I got 11 bullet holes in me. He said, what they did, they tattooed you with bullets and, as a joke or whatever. But I did not have an actual tattoo on me because that was a thing that all the people in that neighborhood around that area, they was welcome to get one or they welcome not to. You know what I'm saying? You got people who, straight Joe people, didn't do nothing but go to work back and forth, had bottom boy tattooed on them or bottom girls tattooed on them because it wasn't a gang thing. And I stand on that. And moving on from that, so after me and him had the little contentions with that, I would go down there, I'd leave the cell, and loved every opportunity I got to leave the cell. You'd be surprised at how just being able to walk out of the cell after being confined like that feels. Once you'd have been taken away from having all this space where you can go around, you can go anywhere to and fro, and now you done had that taken away from you, that you have to enjoy the simple thing as walking to or fro to court or walking down to the room to look at your legal work with your lawyer. So as I would walk down there to see my legal work and see the thing they had against us, we used to look at the videos together, and try to decide what could they use or how could they use the videos. And then they had the paperwork showing me different things that was said about me or said about us and what they could use going on. So we was going through that. They get me to the door. They'll take me down to the door. They'll put me in the door. I'll stick my hand out the slot and they'll take the handcuffs off me. And I would sit down with my lawyer. When I sit down with my lawyer, we would go over there, I look at the videos, and I go through the paperwork and going through the videos. I mean, it was like nostalgia. I didn't know how long these people had been gathering these videos. It seemed that every time they stopped somebody who had a picture of me or had a picture of some of us, they were just taking it and holding it and keeping it. I mean, I seen videos. I pretty much watched myself grew up on these videos. I had seen 8 years of videos going all the way back 8 years, and I watched myself go from having hair to not having hair. I mean, it was painful, but it was nostalgic because I didn't even know some of this video existed. You know what I'm saying? So when I'll be down there, my lawyer will try to work out our defense going on. I'll go back. We did this here several times. Me and my lawyer also got into it. Well, we had a few words again because when I was coming down there, I was inebriated. I was drunk as a skunk. I was coming down there. I was miserable back there, and I was drinking. I was drunk as a skunk. Come down there, and he said, "Man, you can't help me in this condition. I need you to come here and look at these things. I need you to be sober when you come down here." He said, "Where you get that from?" I said, man, don't ask me no crap like that, man. Don't ask me no crap like that. I said, I'll never do that. And so now, me and him, I understood what he was saying and everything. So I withheld the drinking when the day that he told me he was gonna meet me down there, and we would go down there and look through the paperwork and everything go on. So our next situation that we had was my pastor at that time, Owens. He wanted to come see me to offer me some spiritual comfort. So they put him through all types of red tape and everything. Threatened him, accused him of being associated with us, made all kind of threats going on. Man, but he stood his ground, and they allowed him to see me for 30 minutes, and we talked, and he prayed for me and everything, and he was just explaining to me that he was trying to get his father and some other people to not listen to exactly what they were saying about him, and make his father understand that I did try to do some positive things in the neighborhood even back then. In fact, I paid for his wedding and everything, and he had a what we call a boarding house that he used to help that. I used to assist him with that from time to time. But moving on from that, the next different thing that we had to deal with was our transportation back and forth to court, because sometimes during our pretrial, some of the times during our pretrial situations, we had to be present in front of a judge when a brief was petitioned, when a brief was presented. So we would actually have to go down there in person, and each time that we left, we would always leave under. I mean, it was like a presidential motorcade. You had about six black Tahoes. You had 6 black Tahoes that used to escort us from the city jail to the new federal courthouse, and all the streets would be blocked out on down that route. God forbid anybody had got in the way of that caravan, because they was taking it very, very serious. They was not gonna let us engage anyone, and they wasn't gonna let anyone engage us. Anyone had to got in between that caravan with the guns they were toting and the way they was moving, it's no doubt that they was gonna shoot it up right there. So as we moved to and fro going, they would take us down here in the big pod at the bottom. We would go down in the big pod in the bottom, and each federal marshal would stand by us and put the shackles on us, on our feet. They would put the belly chains around our waist, and then to put us in handcuffs like this. So each one of us had an officer about. Then they would get their paperwork, and they would decide who's going in the car with who. And they'd be like, okay, Bam Bam, done, go. They going in car number 1. And then boom, we're going to have a decoy right here. Such and such going in car number 2. And then we'll have a decoy in between them. So we sit there and watch this. It take us about 45 minutes to an hour sometime just to get dressed to go get ready to move. And then once we got situated like that, we would walk out at the bottom of the jail under the little tunnel. We come down at the bottom of the jail, and there, if somebody would alert the news reporters every time. So, because when we come down there, the news reporter would be right there in our face with the cameras, and they would be saying different things to try to aggravate us, to get a reaction. They would be telling us, hey, listen, how you feel that your brother is testifying against you, Bam Bam? How you feel that they got you labeled as the enforcer for the bottom boys? So we would go back and forth with this, and they would say stuff to me, and I did get angry a couple of times, and my lawyer advised me that was what they were trying to do, and they continue to do it so regularly that we finally petitioned our lawyer to go to the judge and get an order that they had to stay across the street. They had to stay a further enough distance away from us that they couldn't get right in front of our face and make us uncomfortable and say slick stuff to us, because we was shackled up and unable to defend ourselves. At the present time, they were getting right in our face, telling us, how you gonna be the enforcer? You ain't even 5 feet tall. Different things like that. So as that went on, the lawyer petitioned the judge, and the judge did have a court order saying that they had to stay a certain amount of paces away from us when they coming out. You couldn't stop them from being there because it was newsworthy, and we couldn't stop them from being there. But they got some pictures of me looking pretty crazy at some time, and others of me just holding my head and getting on back to keep from looking crazy on the thing. And as you see, and you'll see that in some of the videos, or even in some of the newspaper clippings that's out there and that we have. Now, to move on to the situation with me and my lawyer going back and forth to court. As me and my lawyer steady contention thing was steady heating up, because my lawyer was the type of lawyer who felt that he could tell me everything, and I was just supposed to go for this. I was just supposed to do whatever he say, go for whatever he say, not even put up nothing. But yet still, he was in full control. He wanted to be in full control of things, but I know he wasn't going to do none of the time. So I mean, I'm taking it personal. To him, it was just a job.